Do you ever wake up wondering why you here? If you were put on this earth to spread love and fight fear, no matter the situation, you want to be the one to save the day. But the second your eyes shut, you're reminded of shit pain. So you keep your eyes peeled, searching for those in need, regardless of their belief, sexuality, colour or creed. Always helping as if they're your sister or brother. We're one human race, we rise by lifting others. So I bench press everyone's struggles and stress, alleviate their weight on my shoulders and chest, save more people to increase my reps and sets. Life's a gym, training me to beat my personal best. And I get messages from those who've lost to death and suicide about how my poetry's impacted their life, helping them find a reason to keep smiling inside, to radiate positive energy and hope despite the strife. So why do I get high from a saviour complex? Why do I cry thinking I failed at funerals, paying my respects? Grief is the price we pay for love, so I'm out of wealth. It's costed so much of my mental health, what my own dad doesn't even believe in. Excited for his son's 4th BBC News feature, but I'm on screen grieving my diagnosed suicidal past broadcast to the world. But dad's uncomfortable, so can't comfort me with one word. His shame, taboo, stigma hurt me to my core, but I ain't that kid taught to shut the fuck up anymore. Now I've learned how to use my voice and finally speak loud. Stranger things have happened in this world we find upside down. I might have trauma creeping in from time to time, so I need to take a break, be kind to myself, cause I'm still alive. I'm blessed to realise all the breath in my lungs is stronger than the tears in my eyes. Remember, you are not alone. Mental health ain't a solo workout. If it's so exhausting, why don't we help each other work it out? No more silence, holding the heavy burden to suffer. It's about passing the weight around so we can all carry it for each other. Let's all carry it for each other.
The BBC has been told by 8 charities that a mental health crisis is looming as the lockdown is eased. They say a tidal wave of patients who were left untreated during lockdown will require care after the pandemic, and they believe services won't be able to cope. Our reporter Simon O'Leary has been speaking to families who lost loved ones to suicide during the pandemic.
Ben in particular felt he had to live his life at 1,000,000 miles an hour so that he didn't have to stop and let those demons come into his head.
This is Chris Brown. 2 months ago, his son Ben took his own life. He was 22, studying engineering, and months away from starting with the army. Lockdown made things difficult for Ben, but his dad says it was only one of many factors which influenced his feelings before his death.
Lockdown, of course, gave him a lot of opportunities, I'm afraid, to just sit on his bed, lie on his bed, and let those demons play with his mind. It all goes into slow motion when she starts pushing the words out. It's our son, Ben. He's killed himself. And it just slowed right down. I've never felt this feeling of I couldn't stand up straight. I suddenly had to lean against a table. My legs were going. And I was just shouting no, goodness knows how many times, down the phone, and probably a swear word as well.
To his parents' knowledge, Ben was never diagnosed with a mental health condition. His dad says he didn't show any outward signs of his suffering. He was just one of many struggling during the pandemic. The charity Mind are calling on the government to start planning now for the deep and lasting scar that they say will be left on the country's mental health.
Other professionals and volunteers have had an escalating number of calls and people in acute anxiety.
So I've been speaking to a whole host of charities for this film, and they've all said the same thing, that as we come out of lockdown and in the coming months, we're heading for a mental health crisis.
We normally have a lot of people maybe mentioning suicide, but almost a third of our callers have been talking about suicidal plans. And we actually predict there will be a tidal wave of people who are going to need help, and that the mental health services are not going to be able to cope.
He was a very bright and colourful character. He brought like a big energy to any room that he came in. You would always know he was there.
For 34-year-old Daniel Furness, the very prospect of lockdown was overwhelming. Daniel had bipolar disorder, and just days after the lockdown was announced, he voiced his concerns online.
I messaged him kind of on the day that the announcement was made and said, you know, I understand that this is probably going to be very difficult for you. Please just reach out to me anytime you need to chat. He wouldn't give it away how much he was kind of struggling. My sister would send him like kind of Snapchats every morning of our little niece because that really brightened up his day. She was a bit like a natural antidepressant for him.
But the day after posting that Facebook update, Daniel was found dead.
My brother called me, and I think his words just were, he's actually done it. Lockdown was just probably one of many factors for him, and it was just unfortunately something that obviously just intensified it far too much for him.
The government first published advice for people with a mental health illness on March the 29th. That was 2 days after Daniel was found dead.
We went to the Department of Health and Social Care with Daniel's story, and I've just got this email in response. I'll read you what they say. They say they've given just over 4 million to mental health charities like Samaritans. And this is on top of 5 million already made available to charities through the Coronavirus Mental Health Response Fund.
The system has been under a lot of strain for years, so it was already very much up against it. So there is already evidence that there's going to be an increase in levels of mental illness. If you're feeling suicidal and you feel that there's nobody you can turn to, I think it's very important that people actually make contact with somebody that they trust, get some immediate support. If you're really in crisis, you can contact your GP. Mental health services have got crisis lines. If you don't know the number, you can go through 111. And of course, you can always speak to organisations such as the Samaritans.
Even if you're surrounded by family and friends, in ordinary times, it can be a distressing, isolating factor to be thinking about suicide. But I think lockdown has compounded that. People are reporting that they don't have the normal support channels open to them, and a lack of privacy as well, being actually in the house surrounded by people who care about you but are not necessarily the ones you want to disclose difficult topics to.
Chris's son Ben was a vocal advocate for mental health. Just a month before taking his own life, he posted online to encourage other men to discuss suicide prevention. For so many of his friends, he was their guy to turn to when they were feeling low.
You gave me the biggest hugs ever you could see through my mental health and suicidal pain. Who knew that the person who really needed help was you too?
That was especially true for Hussain, a spoken word poet and one of Ben's university friends. He's been diagnosed with clinical depression and generalised anxiety disorder.
Corona's already affected me heavily in terms of death. Lockdown got me learning self-love and now it's reversed. I could have been Ben a few years ago. If it wasn't for people like Ben and my friends telling me to seek support and counselling, then I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be speaking to you. Yeah. I won't beat around the bush. Lockdown is the worst. I wouldn't wish this pain upon my worst enemy. The pain of waking up every morning and feeling like you just want to go back to sleep. That pain of suddenly wanting to open up but then closing it all in. That pain of thinking that no one will miss you and feeling as though you're a burden on this world. I wish I could have helped you. I should have seen the signs. Man with the happiest smile on me, he's reading between the lines. Take it from me. Take it from Ben's family. I beg you, reach out before you have to feel this agony.
Suicide is such a complex issue, and it almost never happens just because of one reason. Lockdown may have added an extra layer of difficulty to Daniel and Ben's lives, but there's no way their deaths could be attributed to just that. And for their families, they have to live with the loss for the rest of their lives.
I've just got through Father's Day. That was the strangest experience. Christmas, birthdays, they're always going to be challenges forever now. We would sit at the table and watch the red kites up in the sky above us. And he'd look at them and say, they're magnificent beasts, aren't they, Dad? And I said, yeah, they are. And it's strange now, when I see them swoop over low over us, I see Ben now.
Simon O'Leary with that report, and it was filmed and edited by Sean Clare. Let's talk now to Paul Farmer. He's the Chief Executive of the charity Mind. Hello, Mr. Farmer. Good morning.
Morning.
I'd like to get a sense from you of the scale of the mental health issue, that the kind of problems that will have been triggered or exacerbated by lockdown.
Well, we're publishing today the results of a very large survey of around about 16,000 people, vast majority of whom experience mental health problems at the moment. And over 2/3 of them have said that lockdown has made their mental health worse. And amongst particular groups, particularly people with conditions like eating disorders or obsessive compulsive disorder, that number increases to around about 3/4 of people. So there can be no doubt that lockdown has been incredibly difficult for people with existing mental health problems. And it's also put many people who maybe previously didn't have mental health problems at greater risk of developing those issues.
Why?
Well, lockdown is not some of the basics of lockdown are not great for our mental health. The phrase self-isolation in and of itself is not good for our mental well-being. We've been forced to be detached from many of the reasons that keep our mental health good. We call them the protective factors. So it might be the ability to hug your grandchild or go and play team sports. But we also know that risk factors, those factors that can really challenge our mental health, have been increased as well. So if you're from a black and minority ethnic community where you're seeing greater incidence of friends and family members passing away, or if you're living in an abusive household, then your mental health is put at particular strain. Or indeed, if you've been a frontline worker having to cope with the traumatic impact of coronavirus. All these issues come together to really create, I think, quite a significant mental health emergency for this country in the coming months, which we're really going to need to address.
Well, NHS England have told us that mental health services are still open and working round the clock to support people through this pandemic. Is that fair?
Yes, I think it's fair that mental health services are definitely open, and in fact, as you saw in that really powerful film, it's so important to encourage people to go and seek help. But something that definitely happened during the lockdown was that the number of people who were referred into mental health services went down. Despite the fact that there were people who were clearly suffering in silence effectively. And so there's been a bit of a disconnect in some parts of the country between the services and their ability to be able to reach out to the people who need them most. I think that is absolutely changing at the moment, and it is important that people do reach out and seek help from mental health services. But as you heard in that film, we know that services in and of themselves previously to COVID have been under an awful lot of pressure. And so the investment in the long-term plan for mental health as part of the bigger NHS plan is hugely important. And that needs to be accelerated in order to be able to meet this kind of growing need that we're undoubtedly seeing at the moment.
Paul, stay with us. We're going to have a word with Labour MP Liz Twist. She's chair of the all-party parliamentary group on suicide and self-harm prevention, and we're going to have a word with her on the phone. Liz Twist, sorry about the technicals, but we're happy to talk to you. Thank you for speaking to us. Now, the government have told us they've given over £4 million to mental health and wellbeing charities like Samaritans, Young Minds and Bipolar UK. Because the government is well aware that lockdown will have had an effect on people's mental health. Is that enough?
Well, I think there is always more we can do, Victoria. And one of the clear things is about getting out the message to people about the need to talk and to, if you're feeling low, if you're finding it difficult, to talk to someone like Samaritans about how you're feeling.
What is your sense of the scale of the problem that this country is going to have to address when we probably come out of these lockdown restrictions when it comes to mental health?
Yeah, I think it's difficult to quantify, but it's clear that all of us have been affected in different ways, and some people have found it alienated from their friends and their family. And so we will need to make sure that services are available for those people as we come through coronavirus. It's not just the physical health side, it's the mental health side that we need to be addressing as well.
OK. Paul Farmer, you're making certain calls on the government today. What are they?
Yes, so alongside the results of the survey, we're publishing our 5 tests for government. We do think this is a critical moment for tackling this mental health situation that is both real in people's lives, in people's communities, but also we can predict certain problems coming down the line in the next couple of months. We think government need to invest additionally in community mental health services so that people can get quick access to the kind of help and support they need from the NHS, particularly protecting people who are most at risk, those people who have been put at risk as a result of coronavirus. There's the need particularly to think about the economic impact of the consequences of coronavirus and supporting people who are on welfare benefits. And we're very disappointed to see yesterday's announcement about the changes around conditionality, the benefit sanctions for people. And particularly, we also want to focus on legislative change and also focusing on the mental health of children and young people. I think this combination of approaches for government, these are 5 critical tests. It needs a cross-governmental response. It's not just the job of the NHS here. It requires help, support from across government to make these changes happen. I think this is a really key crossroads for making change happen for people with mental health problems. So many people have struggled through this coronavirus period and do need extra help and support.
Thank you very much, Paul Farmer, Chief Executive of Mind. Labour MP Liz Twist, Chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Suicide and Self-Harm Prevention. Let me give you the Action Line website address if you want to contact organisations or websites that can help you with the kind of things that we've just been discussing. Then it's bbc.co.uk/Action Line. And let me also give you the Samaritans number as well, if I may. Call for free, 116 123. That's the Samaritans free phone number, 116 123. The number is staffed 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.